Hello and welcome to today's webinar. This is the third in our four-part series for holistic nutrition for Malaysia. And today I'm so excited to be sharing about intermittent fasting. If you have not joined our Facebook group yet, type in Holistic Nutrition for Malaysia in your Facebook search and make sure to join us there to tap into free resources and updates on our live webinars. I just want to recognize our partners, Seeds Origin, 2 locations in Kuala Lumpur, and Wellness Origin, your Center for Wellness. Here is my partner in mission, Jin Kai Lo, and we're on a mission to heal the nations through holistic nutrition. So today's topic, intermittent fasting. I first of all want to go over the basics of intermittent fasting, because sometimes when I'm working with new clients, I can sometimes use terminology that there actually just goes a little bit over their heads. So I want to make sure that I cover all the basics as well as help you understand the science and the benefits of intermittent fasting, as well as how to use this for diet variability, how to switch it up, and how to make this fit your lifestyle. Make sure that you watch to the end, because I will also be sharing people that need to be cautious when it comes to intermittent fasting. So yeah, certainly when I'm onboarding new clients or new audiences, there are times when I start to talk about fasting of any kind that people honestly look at me in disbelief. Like, how could I skip a meal? How could I go a day without eating? And a lot of people, believe it or not, have never done this their whole lives. And so it feels very foreign. It feels very scary. So I thought that I would start off just with this fun fact and piece of information. So in 1965, Angus Barbieri out of the UK, he was 465 pounds, give or take, and he was just frustrated with being obese. And so he walked into a hospital and asked them to monitor him while he abstained for food. And they agreed. So they checked vitals, they, oversaw everything that needed to be overseen, and they didn't expect him to last that long. I think maybe in their minds were thinking, okay, maybe this will be a week. Well, little did they know that his body was able to be completely self-sufficient on burning his own body fat. And that's really important, because most of us have grown up in a paradigm when it comes to nutrition that we believe that carbohydrates are our source of fuel. And that's only a partial truth, because our bodies can use carbohydrates, sugars, and that's normally where our bodies prioritize burning fuel. One of the reasons for that, actually, we'll prioritize burning sugar because if sugar builds up in our bloodstream, it will become toxic and will become fatal. So that's why the body prioritizes that. But the other fuel source that our body can use is fat. It can use fat from our food. And if it doesn't have either of these sources, so there's no sugar in the blood and it doesn't have the fats in our blood, which are represented in our blood as triglycerides, it actually will go to our adipose tissue, our fat stores, and it has a way called lipolysis that it will break down that fat and literally make fuel from that. And this is really exciting to understand, because it frees us from thinking that we have to have carbohydrates or food every few hours. So what was amazing about Angus's story is he ended up abstaining from food for 382 days. He got to his goal weight of 180 pounds. And he didn't have any issues. So he still holds the world record. He just drank water, sparkling water, black coffee, and teas. And towards the end of his fast, I believe he started bringing in maybe a little bit of milk or sugar in his tea. But he was also able to maintain that weight loss. I think he was able to maintain, 5 years later, they showed him at 190 or 195 pounds. So let that be some interesting information for you, maybe some inspiration for some people. But I just wanted to break this paradigm that we need food every few hours, that we need breakfast, lunch, dinner every day to survive, because that is a false paradigm. Now, fortunately, we're not talking about this type of extended fasting today. I certainly do not recommend you try and do this extended fasting. This is not to be done at home. I'm just sharing this for educational, factual, and maybe even a little bit entertainment purposes. So today we're talking about intermittent fasting. So what is intermittent fasting exactly? So that is abstaining from calories for a shortened period of time. So the way that most people do that is they will designate an eating window, or another way to say that is designate a fasting window when you're not eating. And for it to be in the category of intermittent fasting, the eating window would need to be less than 10 hours to get any kind of benefit from it. Another way to do intermittent fasting is to designate days in the week to fast or do intermittent fasting, or to lower calories in those days. So let's see what that looks like here. We're going to break that into 4 categories. So let's talk about that daily window first. The most common example is a 16-8. So when you see these numbers put together side by side, when it comes to intermittent fasting, that first number is going to be the hours of fasting. So that would mean 16 hours of abstaining from food, only drinking non-caloric liquids. And then the 8 is going to be the eating window. So let's just say, for example, you open your eating window at 11 o'clock in the morning. So when you wake up, you do not have any food and any calories until 11 o'clock. So then 8 hours later would be when you close your window. That doesn't mean that for 8 hours straight you're eating or grazing. That just means that that's your window where typically I recommend a couple of meals, maybe an additional snack. But one thing that I want us to learn in this process is that snacking is really not healthy for us, and we really need to move away from snacking. And so the best to your ability, try to focus on the meals. My best recommendation is to get used to relying on a couple of meals a day. So if you're normally a 3-meal-a-day person, breakfast, lunch, dinner, challenge yourself, maybe take 2 days out of the week and say, Monday and Wednesday, I'm just going to have lunch and dinner. So that will be a great way to start. I also get the question from a lot of my clients, so what qualifies to have during your fasting window? So like I mentioned with Angus a couple of slides ago, he did black coffee, he did tea, and did sparkling water, so non-caloric drinks. Now, sometimes this may not be ideal, but with my clients that I'm working with, is because the rest of their nutrition normally is restrictive and in some way, normally restricting carbohydrates or sometimes even restricting calories, especially when they have the goal to lose weight. What I may do for them is have an allowance to have a bit of either coconut oil in their coffee or a little bit of a healthy type of creamer in their coffee, and that can be okay. But here's the rule for that, is to keep that under 40 calories, okay? So if you are not following some strict nutrition protocols, that I would say do your very best to do really clean intermittent fasting, where you're only doing water, maybe some black coffee, herbal tea, sparkling water outside of your window. But other examples for that daily window fasting could be a 24, so you're fasting for 20 hours and then eating a shortened window, so 4 hours, or sometimes in some of my programs I do a 6-hour eating window, which I feel is a really good one when you're focusing on brain health brain healing, trying to get rid of that brain fog, maybe even, dealing with some memory loss issues. That's a really great ratio for that. But another way, sometimes beginner intermittent fasters will just think about it as far as skipping meals. And that can be simpler because you don't have to track the hours. I mean, there certainly are some apps out there where you literally can track your intermittent fasting hours. But skipping meals can be quite simple and once away, an easy way to get started. So that could be skipping breakfast. That could be skipping dinner, or that could be skipping lunch. So the way that I recommend someone get started is by skipping breakfast. And the reason why I do skipping breakfast is purely because it's easier on our willpower. Our willpower is best in the morning. You're more motivated in the morning. You're more focused in the morning. And so it's just easier to get a good start with all your health habits. And sometimes that can just be conducive to getting our day going and maybe getting a workout in and so forth. And then it sometimes is when it comes to the end of the day is when it can be harder to do. So start off skipping breakfast. But here's one thing I'll say about that. If you have been a person that has been skipping breakfast, you've been doing intermittent fasting, and maybe you're not seeing any results with that, then I will recommend switching it up and go towards having breakfast, having lunch, and then skipping dinner. This can be a challenging dynamic, especially with families, if you have family evening meals together. So it can be a little bit harder on the social or family dynamic. But in my opinion, it actually is a very healthy next step for intermittent fasting. And when I lived in the States, I normally did this and just, having the type of work schedule that I did and also getting up early to work out. Skipping breakfast was very easy for me and just part of my routine. Traveling internationally, honestly, my body does better with having an earlier meal, but not eating in the evening. My body just at this point definitely doesn't like having a late night meal. I don't like having heavy meals in the evening. So I want you to know, based on my clinical work that I've done with clients as well as research, there are benefits to doing it either way, and there can definitely be a benefit to switching that up. It doesn't have to be the strict, everyone should skip breakfast, and we can switch those. So the next example is going to be looking at your week and not necessarily committing to say, I'm going to do this window every single day. It could be doing those eating windows just on every other day. So alternate day intermittent fasting. So maybe you say, I'm going to do a 18-6 every other day. Or maybe you say every other day, I'm going to do a 1 meal day. So that whenever you see me using the word OMAD, that's what it means. 1 meal a day is what that stands for. And there's a lot of benefit from doing this. There's a lot of freedom that comes out of like just having to think about 1 meal in the day, especially if you have some busy days. If you're busy in the week, you can really look at your schedule and see what is conducive in your schedule to these different fasting things. Remember, there are no fast rules for this. It really, you can make this fit your schedule, your lifestyle, and as we'll talk a little bit later, your health dynamic. So another way of doing that is doing a 24-hour fast once a week. And this, in fact, was the way that I started intermittent fasting over 20 years ago, is I would take 1 day out of the week and I would just drink liquids or water or to have this fasting tonic that I would do. And it was a great reset for the week. It really helped me in my history, in my teenage and young adult years. I found myself really struggling with food and, whether that be emotional eating or periods where I felt like I was addicted to carbs. And just having this reset in the week was part of me healing from those. And I found that doing different periods of restriction was really helpful to detach from that emotional dependence on food. I don't recommend doing 20-hour fasting with alternate day fasting, I think that's really a bit hard on the body. So I recommend a 24-hour water fast just once a week, not more than that. And what a 24-hour fast can look like is you could have dinner on Sunday night, and then let's say you stop eating at 6:30 in the evening, then you just drink water until the next day at 6:30, and then you have your dinner. So you end up that next day just having one meal, but it doesn't feel as scary. It doesn't feel like, oh, I've got to go the whole day without eating. But the benefits from doing a 24-hour water fast, the research shows us that it activates intestinal stem cells, which help the healing of your gut lining. So if you have any digestive issues, or, and most people honestly do have inflammation in their gut, this is fantastic to do a reset and to upregulate some gut healing. So why should we have a fasting lifestyle? Why should we make intermittent fasting, something that we get good at, that we practice regularly? Well, if you're someone that wants to be healthy, wants to heal your body, wants to feel your best, then I am going to give you some good reasons here. The main thing is to heal insulin resistance. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today, as I'm about to dig into the science a little deeper for you, is all about healing this insulin resistance, because we live in a culture where we have an abundance of food. We have access to food literally all the time, and easy access. We don't have to go and kill an animal and prep. Like we're not out there. I wish we were, but we're not out there gardening and harvesting and gathering, nuts and fruits. We literally can just get in our car, go to a grocery store, get home and prepare a meal, or we can order delivery to our door. People pop something in a microwave, get something from a vending machine. Food has become way too available and accessible to us. And that, in my opinion, is what has become a root cause of a lot of modern diseases, of chronic disease. And so we have to do things which now seem a little bit drastic when I'm telling people to go from 3 meals a day to 2 meals a day. And it's literally because we just need to heal our body. And so this is what happens when we are perpetually putting food in our body. We wake up in the morning and we have breakfast at 7 or 8 a.m. We're having a blood sugar rise. That blood sugar rise is causing insulin to be produced. But then if we eat every few hours throughout the day, basically our insulin is just always being produced by our pancreas. And we end up with this overproduction of insulin, or this insulin's always in our system. And because it's always there, what happens is our feedback loops with that, our pancreas and our cell receptors, they start to get either burned out or a little bit deaf to the signal. Okay, so they're not as sensitive to the signals anymore, and that's what they call insulin resistance. So we have to get that insulin down to heal, get a reset, and allow our body to be more sensitive to the insulin. But we also need insulin, which I'll go over in a little bit. We need insulin lower to get some healing. So here's the main thing. The main reason why I use intermittent fasting in literally all of my nutrition strategies is because I want to take the body from being a sugar burner to a fat burner, because we have different pathways that we use for metabolism. We can either burn sugar as fuel, or we can burn fat as fuel. We can also burn our own adipose tissue as fuel. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So basically what we're doing, we're diversifying our metabolic pathways. We're training the body to use fat for energy instead of being dependent on that carbohydrate pathway. So what that does is it allows that carbohydrate pathway to heal. This is where we see diabetes healing, type 1 and type 2. This is where we see hypoglycemia healing. But this is even other metabolic disorders that it ends up helping, are even things like autoimmune diseases, because we see downregulation of the inflammation. We see this supports cancer healing, this supports energy, this supports brain health, the list goes on and on. The other thing that's happening is the digestive system and those mechanisms, including the cell receptors, are resting, and so they are allowed to heal. It also ends up improving the microbiome, because when we intermittent fast, when we abstain from food for extended periods, what it does is it kills off the, what I'm going to do, like quote unquote, the bad bacteria that can be more pathogenic, because those bacteria are very sugar dependent. This also would include yeast overgrowth in the system. So it supports healing of that, which gives better balance to the microbiome and helps our microbiome function better, which then helps with our immune system. It helps with obviously elimination, digestion, hormone production, and so forth. Then the obvious, decreasing inflammation in the body, because we're not getting those inflammatory foods coming in, and we are also we are allowing the intestinal lining, immune system, we're allowing our immune system to reset and be more robust and stronger. So we're supporting the decrease in inflammation, which then in turn helps the immune system. And we are also supporting cellular and genetic repair. When we have periods of fasting, it activates our survival genes, which is actually pretty exciting, because those are longevity genes. And so when we're doing this sporadically, it serves our body well for longevity. And honestly, like even things like literally can help us, look younger, have more energy, feel better. And then this is what I love about working with my clients through intermittent fasting, is seeing them heal food addictions and emotional dependencies on food. See them being freed from the fear of hunger and cravings, because it's amazing how the body now adapts and heals those when you are not in a dysfunctional carbohydrate pathway. When that isn't broken, then the hunger and the food cravings go away. So let me give you just a little bit of a science lesson here, just a little bit of a synopsis on ketogenesis. You most likely have heard the word keto. Keto has become, very popular in nutrition circles, and as strategy, whether it be for weight loss or to heal the body. Honestly, the ketogenic diet first became popular in the 1940s. Over 80 years ago, to heal epilepsy. And I have even seen this, in my nutrition practice, helping clients with cognitive decline, neurotype of conditions. And so keto has been very well researched, but I think a lot of people sometimes don't understand exactly what that is. So our word for the day is ketogenesis, and ketogenesis is when your body makes ketone bodies from fatty acids, which fatty acids are broken down from either our adipose tissue or from the fat that we take in from our food. Okay, so from fatty acids and amino acids to provide energy during fasting. These ketones or ketone bodies, there are three different ones. They are super powerful in the body. They are very energizing for the brain, very healing for the brain. So the brain loves ketones as fuel. The heart loves ketones as well, the heart muscle. They also are good for one of my favorite terms, mitochondrial biogenesis. That just means the way that your body makes additional mitochondria. So mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. And so as we age, we get less mitochondria, they will deplete, and their efficacy will unfortunately deplete. So that's why as you age, you might see energy levels be less. Always joke about, if we could bottle the energy of the 5-year-old, right? Well, this is representative of mitochondrial function, and so ketones boost our mitochondrial function and literally even the number of mitochondria. This is something similar. This also happens when we do like high intensity workouts, or sprinting is one of those things. So like HIIT type of workouts help and support mitochondrial biogenesis. But so does fasting because of the ketones. So what this does is this improves metabolism and helps to heal metabolism. Ketones also act like antioxidants, so they combat free radicals in the body. So they support scavenging the things that are damaging to our body and causing havoc. And this is really important to know, is that ketones preserve muscle mass. A lot of times when people water fast or do some kind of fasting, they get nervous about losing muscle, and it's actually the opposite, because when we have ketones in our system and when we do periods of fasting, it actually upregulates human growth hormone, which helps us literally to grow muscle. So if you did a water fast, let's just call that a 1-day water fast, you can upregulate the production of human growth hormone by up to 200%. Also testosterone, and not the 200%, but this also upregulates testosterone. So this really supports muscle mass. In fact, a lot of bodybuilders will use the principles of intermittent fasting or periods of ketosis to support their muscle building. So let's go into fat burning so that I can help you understand the science of basically how our body responds to insulin. So if you look at this graph over here, we have, so on this left axis, we have the level of insulin and the level of fat burning, and then on the bottom axis we have the hours since last meal. Okay, so this is going to help you understand the duration of intermittent fasting. Okay, so right after your meal, your body is storing fat, especially if you have a high carbohydrate meal. So your insulin is going to go up, and then you are going to be storing fat. So the longer you move away from that meal time, your fat storage ability is going to decrease. So you're seeing this here with the red portion decreasing. After 12 hours, typically, now this is variable based on someone's metabolic health. However, with the average person, it takes 12 hours before your body can even think about burning fat or about activating or increasing ketones in the blood. Okay, so 12 hours. So let's say that you finished your last meal at 8 o'clock at night. That means 8 o'clock the next morning, if you eat breakfast again, you're just restarting this whole fat storage, and you're never able to tap into the fat burning. But in this example, we're going up to 24 hours. So you see now how at 14 hours, now we're getting a little bit of fat burning because insulin is low, and then we'll just increase the amount of fat burning that we do. So really that fat burning peaks at that 22 to 24 hour mark. Also, there's some other cool things that start to happen. I talk about this in my holistic healing strategy, and we have strategies that work with this. But some cool things that happen when you get closer to the 24-hour mark is your body upregulates BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So that's really powerful for decreasing inflammation in the brain, and actually even helps your brain make new brain cells. And then the other thing that's upregulated is something called autophagy, which is protein recycling, so cellular protein recycling that also helps your body maintain and even build muscle mass. It's pretty cool. I've had some of my clients who've gone through the holistic healing strategy. I have within that strategy, I have a very cool fasting week. It's called the Take 5 Fast. And when I first launched this, I had a case study of about 50 people, and I had select people that would do body composition before and after that Take 5 fast. And I even had people that showed an increase in muscle mass while they did that 5-day fast.
Oh, okay.
Peggy, if you could just mute yourself, that would be great. I think I'm on my screen. I'm not able to do that right now, and I am recording. Thank you so much. All right, so let's look at when someone is having 3 traditional meals, which very typical for people is 12 hours of eating throughout the day. But really, if we look at our general population, sadly, it's not even just this 3 meals. I wish people were just doing 3 meals, but a lot of times people are snacking in between or doing late night snacks, or maybe having a couple of drinks at night, or maybe it's a bowl of ice cream. So this becomes almost a very ideal scenario. But I just want you to see what this looks like as far as the insulin. So the insulin is spiking, the blood glucose and the insulin spiking when we have the meal, then that's going down. Sometimes in between those meals, we could tap into a little bit of fat burning there, but not much. So that's just if you look at a 24-hour time frame, what can happen there. But honestly, you're not getting too much fat burning, even when you're doing the 3 meals a day, because this example here is not even taking into account very high carbohydrate meals. So that's what a 12-hour eating window might look like. And just for me to clarify here, so this is when the insulin is spiking. Now, what happens when your insulin gets low, it upregulates or it works together with another hormone called glucagon. So insulin and glucagon work hand in hand to support blood sugar regulation. Your blood sugar always has to stay stable. You always want that to stay in homeostasis, because if your blood sugar gets too low, like, you literally can die. And so the body is really intelligent. So this is how I've literally seen people do. I have coached people through 7 and even 14-day water fasts, and we have tracked their ketones and their blood sugars during that. And we see the body, because sometimes people with hypoglycemia might think, oh, like, my blood sugar is going to get too low. So if I'm working with someone with hypoglycemia, I will do a gentle introduction to intermittent fasting. I might start off by replacing the first meal with a boiled egg instead of them having a oatmeal or cereal or bagel in the morning. So that's the way. But I have 100% success rate with helping people overcome hypoglycemia. But basically, what hypoglycemia is it's when the glucagon's not functioning well. So the insulin, or the blood sugar starts to crash, that glucagon doesn't take over, doesn't function well, and now the blood sugar gets too low, and that person feels sick. So they have to have sugar to get their blood sugar up. But that really just simply is basically a response to insulin resistance and to sugar dysregulation. And so that is something that has to be healed and can be healed very, very easily. So I just want you to understand that the blood sugar, like, if you don't eat, let's say you do a 24-hour or even a 48-hour fast, what happens is the glucagon kicks in, and that helps your blood sugar to regulate. So now let's look at that example of an 8-hour eating window. And so This would be the example of 2 meals. So you see how with the 2 meals now we can maximize or get more fat burning in there, and we can get a longer period where where our insulin is low, so we can get the benefits of basically training up the glucagon as well as getting the ketone production. I don't have a slide showing a 4-hour window or a 1 meal a day, but basically that would just be one spike. So there we see how we maximize that even more. So I wanted to show you the insulin responses to different macronutrients, just so you can have a visual of the difference with if you have a high fat meal, protein meal, or you have a high carbohydrate meal. So typically we're probably mixing these together, but if you understand this, you can work this into your strategy. So what you might do if you want to keep that insulin low is you might choose for your first meal when you're breaking your fast to be a high fat meal versus a high carb meal. Okay, that high carb meal is just going to spike up that insulin. So getting started with this a higher fat meal, that could be an avocado salad, that could be some fish, which you would get the protein then in there too. That could be chia pudding. I'm a big fan of chia pudding. That could be coconut oil or coconut cream in your coffee, or that could be a handful of nuts. All right, so as we're wrapping up here, let's go over some of the ways that just incorporating intermittent fasting can be just beneficial to your lifestyle and simplify your lifestyle and even save you money. So one thing when I'm helping people with a healthier lifestyle, just in today's world, we're so busy, right? There's work, there's kids, there's social engagements, there's so many things that we need to do. But if you think about the time that it takes, the focus that it takes, the energy that it takes around our meals, it's, we literally, if you go from 3 meals a day to 2 meals a day, that's one less meal you have to think about. That's one less meal you have to prepare, one less meal you have to clean up after. Or maybe if you're eating out that meal, that's, one less stop you have to make. So this really starts to save us time. What I would do is I would be very intentional with that time and say, look, in the morning, if I'm saving myself now 20 minutes or even 30 minutes, I'm going to put that back somewhere. So what is that time going to go to? Is that going to go to exercise or meditation or prayer or, like make that productive time that you save in the morning, but also literally saves money. Maybe that money is going into Starbucks and a pastry in the morning, or maybe it's going into some kind of smoothie or protein shake, or certain type of supplements. So when we minimize our meals, that literally can be saving us money, and then we can put that money back into something more productive. Less thought on meals and foods. I always think about, does this happen to you when you have family vacations or big get-togethers or like a trip or something? And it's like at breakfast, people are talking about what they're doing for lunch, and at lunch, they're talking about what they're doing for dinner. It seems like when there are groups of people, everyone is concerned about the next meal, trying to plan, organize, the logistics for that next meal. And honestly, for me, it gets quite exhausting. I don't even like to think about it. But even for us, my husband and I have quite a travel lifestyle. We literally travel full time. And for both of us, it just makes things simpler when for us, it's not a big deal to actually 2 meals a day are very, very standard and normal for us. But even having one meal, it's not a big deal for us. We don't feel hungry or ravished or anything. Our bodies are just so adapted, and it just makes life a little simpler. And I really think for a lot of people, reducing hunger and cravings can be a game changer, like not feeling like you're controlled by those things. every day. So is intermittent fasting for everyone? No, not necessarily. And this is probably not all inclusive. There are probably some other groups. Certainly I would always be cautious with children, although I have helped children do intermittent fasting for some cognitive benefits and healing. But I think the rule of thumb with any type of fasting, including intermittent fasting, is to always seek clinical supervision from a nutrition professional. I'm listing some things here. There are certain conditions that intermittent fasting might be counterproductive in the healing of, or may not be a good idea. So Hashimoto's would be an example, or hypothyroidism, adrenal fatigue, someone who is an intense exerciser or training for an Ironman or ultramarathon would be an example. Someone who is underweight, and then certainly someone who has eating disorders. Now, that being said, I literally have worked with people in all of these categories and have incorporated some type of intermittent fasting, but it just takes for your clinician to understand your exact health dynamic, your exact health goals, so that they can strategize it for you. So certainly there are conditions, that I just wouldn't recommend anyone just to be like, okay, you should be doing a 16-8, or you should be doing water fasting or something like that. However, under proper clinical supervision and strategies, in fact, they can be used to heal these. I personally, if you know my story, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, and I was able to heal those actually in a short period of time, and in a 5-month period of time. Never had to take any medications, anything like that, and my levels maintain normal, healthy levels after that. I also have been an intense exerciser, training for ultra marathons, climbing Kilimanjaro and Ironman, and was able to, maybe not do intermittent fasting all the time, but was able to weave that into a strategy for benefit. And then I also do work with people who are underweight and trying to gain weight. And really for that, it takes just healing any underlying issues in the body. And then, the most out of my scope on this list would be eating disorders, because there needs to be another level of professional care over there. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you do need additional support, please feel free to reach out. Actually, do have the QR code on the screen right now for my calendar. If anyone wants to schedule just a free 30-minute consult to see what strategy is best for you, if there's something that you're looking to heal, or if you're interested in one of my programs, just for example, so I do use intermittent fasting with all of my programs, and one of my programs, my holistic healing strategy, that program, it's variable fasting practices. So it's actually really interesting to see all the different ways that you do intermittent fasting, and or even ketogenic fasting, plant-based fasting, things like that. It's all woven into that program. So if you're curious about, which of my programs would be a good fit for your current health and health goals, then check out my website, bridgetspurgeon.com, or connect with me or schedule an appointment, and that would be absolutely amazing. So I will see you on the next webinar. For previous webinars in this series for holistic nutrition for Malaysia, you can also check out my YouTube channel or check out the group. The previous webinars have been on seed oils and inflammation-causing food, and then the next one in the series is going to be on the benefits and dangers of soy. So I will see you on the next one.